Okay, let's see. It looks like. Oh, okay. It's my first time streaming. Let's see. Looks like the settings are right. Awesome. So, welcome to the first stream on this channel. I'm Xiomara Lucero, and this space is about breaking the script. It's about exposing the elite ideologies and the institutions that have abandoned reality, erased biological truth, and sold out the people that they claim to protect. Make sure. Okay, I'll continue. You usually don't see people like me with a platform. Because if you're a minority, you're only allowed a voice if you toe the progressive line. Step out of it, even to defend basic facts, and suddenly your identity doesn't count. Suddenly, you're a bigot. This channel exists because I'm tired of being silenced and spoken for while being told it's empowering. I'll explain the recent Supreme Court case regarding the Skrmetti ruling, where for once the court said no, you can't override childhood or child safeguarding for ideological reasons. I'll break it down in plain language and connect to what I saw firsthand when I testified at the Texas Capitol in support of HB 778, a bill that tried to do something simple: protect people, mostly minors, harmed by gender medicine. And you can imagine how that went down in Austin. If you've been gaslit into silence, this stream is for you. Let's start. The Supreme Court just ruled in the Skrmetti case that states have the right to ban gender-affirming medical treatments for minors, and the media is melting down. But to me, that wasn't surprising. It was overdue. I testified for HB 778 in Texas because I saw what this movement is doing to children, especially to vulnerable children, like sexually abused girls and autistic boys. And I want to start this stream by showing you exactly what I mean. HB 778 was about insurance coverage for detransitioners, largely minors who were encouraged to transition, suffered permanent harm, and were then abandoned by the same medical system that fast-tracked them. I met some of these women, and I heard them testify, and you're going to hear them too. Essentially, HB 778 was obligating insurance providers who give gender-affirming care to also provide detransition care, because gender-affirming care has a lot of negative side effects and is largely experimental. And so I got to meet all of the detransitioners who testified, and again, it was extremely eye-opening, and the media really doesn't want you to hear their stories. So this isn't theoretical for me. This isn't a debate about identity. It's about children being medically experimented on, boys who are autistic, gay children, children who are gender nonconforming, girls who are sexually abused, and then told to shut up because their experience hurts the leftist narrative. So before we talk about Skrmetti or how we're finally taking a step in the right direction, I want you to hear the voices that are not supposed to be heard. The sexually abused girls who were told they'd feel better if they mutilated their bodies. The autistic boys who were told life would be easier if they changed sex, which isn't possible. And then silenced and victim blamed when it didn't work. So why do I care? Well, my experience with HB 778 really made it personal for me. I got to see how the trans movement really hurts children. Point one, I guess, is that we're transing gender nonconforming, autistic, and homosexual children. So these are vulnerable populations, populations that are vulnerable to social contagion, which is really how this trans hysteria can be characterized, a social contagion. So I'm going to tell the story of Yarden Silveda. I'm going to do so by just sharing my testimony that I gave at the Texas Capitol for HB 778. They have really nice live streams that you can record. So I'm just going to cue that up now. Great. We love OBS Studio. Let's see. I had just had this figured out. Okay, there it is. Screen capture. And we're going to go to QuickTime Recorder. Okay, great. And transition. Cool. And actually, I got interrupted when I gave my testimony, so I kind of skipped ahead of like the awkward back and forth that I had with the chairman. And I'm gonna pause it and read the part that I cut out on the fly because I was afraid of like not being allowed to finish my testimony. So
Just continue reading on and kind of go get to the bill, please, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry, it's at the end if that's okay. I guess I'll start. 2 months after writing the words that I'm going to read, Yarden was dead. HB 778 is the bare minimum. Please pass it for all those still alive and still being denied help. In his words, I was born male. When I was 9 years old, I thought I was gay. When I was 14, my doctors and therapists recommended that I transition. I had no reason to not trust them. When I had sex reassignment surgery, I was conned, I was lied to. I was so happy upon waking up, but when complications occurred, I was left with no genitalia and no functionality. I lost over 70% of my genital tissue. Now it just looks like an atrocity. I'm in discomfort constantly. I can't clean inside the colon tissue. I have a gaping hole in my genital area with my colon spilling out and a ring of scar tissue blocking most of the entrance. I've already reached the stage of blockage. I want to find a surgeon who can at least remove the colon tissue, but they all refuse to help me. The wound needs to be stitched closed, but they refuse. I want to have an orgasm, but the surgeons ruined me. I want to be happy, but there's very little to be happy about. I can't have a normal sex life. What hurts me the most is the loneliness and inability to find a partner. I wanted life to be easier. I wish I had the knowledge that I have today. I was a confused kid with no identity. Maybe if I didn't have autism, I would have caught on before it was too late. I'm 23 years old and I'm begging you, please listen to me. Dr. Thomas Satterwhite and Dr. Maurice Garcia, who are my original surgeons, have basically killed me. With accessory to my death are surgeons who all refuse to help me, despite letters by 3 professionals recommending reversal surgery and my detransitioning. Once they've damaged your body, the medical community will collectively ignore you. There will be no surgery that will save you. Then you'll be on the verge of suicide and still nobody will care. They've doomed me to choose between a life of suffering and death. No one cares enough to help me. People like me don't matter. There is no accountability. So that was the end of the selected excerpt of Yarden's words.
Okay. So you are for the bill, and my question is, you are for the bill in the matters you've spoken to. The bill should hopefully help with maybe some of those issues for you. Is that correct?
Yes, for more context, Yarden had vaginoplasty at 19. He had a revision of his vaginoplasty using his colon soon after. Within a week of the revision surgery, he wanted to have the hole closed, and for the rest of his life, he was trying to find some surgeon who would help him detransition. He looked into nullification surgery. He wasn't even looking to necessarily detransition. He just wanted some help for the blockage of his colon in the neovagina area.
Okay.
So yeah, he stated that because there's no protocol for detransitioning, many surgeons refuse to help him, even prominent transgender surgeons across the United States.
Let's see.
Yeah, so I actually didn't get any questions for my testimony, so I just kind of cut it off there. Let's see. Great. Yeah, so Yarden's story is just so extremely tragic. He was dead by 23. Yeah, those excerpts were collected from various comments that Yarden left during his detransitioning journey that he documented on Reddit. He talked about having to apply for disability, not getting any help from prominent transgender care surgeons once they learned that it was a detransition instead of the fast-tracked transition that they were so gung-ho about. From the very beginning, his vaginoplasty did not go well. He talked about in his GoFundMe for the revision the discomfort that he was in, and so once he was able to get that revision, it was terrible in that he was constantly in pain, and at that point he had lost so much of his both genital tissue and colon tissue. So it wasn't just an issue of maybe, his gender not being affirmed. It was an issue of actual blockage. There were blockages that were just objectively medical concerns that had nothing to do with transness. It's just so really unfortunate that he died because there's no responsibility for detransition care, which I think is a really relevant thing to talk about when it's a bill about mandating insurance provide detransition care for the side effects caused by the transition care they cover. But, had to fight with the chairman to finish. But to continue, we're transing children with permanent surgeries that cause harm, and it's lacking the standard of care that is required for informed consent. So now I'm going to play some of the testimony of Claire Abernathy, another detransitioner that I met and has also been sharing her story at other state legislatures. So to preface, Claire Abernathy was 14 when doctors gave her wrong sex hormones and removed her breasts. No one asked if a child that young could give informed consent to permanent medical harm. Here's what she has to say about it now. Great.
In 2018, a week after I turned 14 years old, I was prescribed testosterone by Dallas Children's Hospital, and 6 months later underwent a double mastectomy at the American Institute for Plastic Surgery in Plano. I was an 8th grader in Denton County Public Schools. Too young to drive, too young to vote, or fully understand the consequences of these interventions. I was assured by medical professionals that transition would fix the struggles rooted in my childhood trauma, disordered eating, and ADHD. They were wrong. By 18, I desperately wanted to undo what had been done to my body, and I was lucky. Maryland's state insurance covered my breast reconstruction, but in Texas, many detransitioners would have no such support. Even with my insurance, I was denied coverage for voice training and laser hair removal, services routinely covered for transitioning males, but not for women like me who want to reclaim our identity. The message was clear. Transition was encouraged and detransition was not. This bill is not about denying or deterring coverage to adults who choose to transition. It is about fairness. If insurers cover transition, they must also cover detransition. Anything less is medical abandonment and discrimination. The system that enabled this harm must be responsible for being a part of the solution. I urge you to support HB 778 to ensure that detransitioners are not left behind. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, mama, you go. Okay, period. It was really cool actually testifying because we were just girls. We're just girls. So it was a number of young women and me, an old maid. And I was actually there on behalf of Democrats for an informed approach to gender. I was the only person that showed up on their behalf because everyone is, even leftists, right, who within the party want to make change. Not me, though. I'm no longer a leftist at this point. Even Democrats want to say to each other, hey, like Rep. Jonah Wheeler, right? They want to say this is a problem. We are losing the common person on this. This is the losing position. This is the modern day lobotomy, right? Mutilating and transing children. Very soon, the tides are going to turn and we're, like this, the alarm's trying to be sound, right? People are trying to sound the alarm, but it's just very hard due to the backlash. It's difficult to speak out. I was afraid people would find out that I testified because there was so much vitriol at the actual hearing. And Claire and some of the other detransitioners, they went to the bathroom together, and the opposing side, right, the party of empathy, they're the ones who actually harassed my friends in the bathroom, because the detransitioners are a small community, not because there are not a lot of people in it, but because the few people who have surfaced their head to speak on what happened to them are given death threats, suicide bait, and that's actually one of the next things, I believe, the next video that's queued up. Oh, the next one is actually about informed consent. So later we'll be talking about how detransitioners are silenced, in addition to just non-trans community aligned people who are trying to speak up and sound the alarm. But we have actual trans people, actual detransitioners trying to sound the alarm as well, and they also get vitriol. So let's queue up the next one, which is one of her responses. Claire got a number of questions, so this is her response on the question about informed consent.
So before you were transitioned, did you understand the long-term health care impact that would happen to you?
So, I don't personally believe that a 14-year-old can understand losing one of the most basic forms of bonding with their future children and potentially permanently making themselves sterile. But in my personal experience, I was not informed by the surgeons at the American Institute for Plastic Surgery that the type of mastectomy that I was receiving had a significantly higher complication rate. And I was not informed about the future inability to breastfeed. So no.
And at the time you sought treatment, did you have any other diagnoses? And if so, what were they?
ADHD and anorexia nervosa.
Okay. And now that you've detransitioned, do you find it easy to find the health that you need, the services that you need?
It was somewhat easy to find a plastic surgeon who would perform my breast reconstruction, but I have yet to find an endocrinologist or gynecologist who feels competent enough to care for me.
Okay. And can you explain if you regret or mourn your transition?
I do. I will. The effects on my fertility are not known. I won't know until I try, I suppose. But I will never be able to breastfeed my children, something that every woman in my family has been able to do without issue.
And you feel that this bill would help ensure that others similarly situated would be able to receive the care that they need?
Yes. My breast reconstruction won't make it so that I am able to breastfeed or feel the touch of another, but it means that I can look in the mirror and not be reminded of the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Y'all hear that? The worst thing that has ever happened to me. And all you hear about is trans joy, right? We don't get to hear the stories of the people who have literally been abandoned by the medical community after being fast-tracked into their transition. These are permanent effects. It's not just sterilization. People love to say, oh, puberty blockers aren't sterilizing. You're right. It's the wrong sex or cross-sex hormones that you take afterward. That's where the sterilization comes in. But it's not just the sterilization. It's not just the hair all over your body. It's not just possibilities, right? It's things that manifest as the later detransitioners will talk about, vaginal atrophy, uterine atrophy, endocrine issues, right? As mentioned, and will be mentioned again later. Urinary issues. There's so many medical issues, not just side effects that fail to affirm your identity, right? But like actual life-threatening or at least life-altering in a negative way side effects. Like later, Claire will talk about how her nipple grafts came off. And it's just, I'm getting ahead of myself, but we are really abandoning both trans identified boys and girls because both sides of the coin are receiving experimental treatments, non-experimental in that we're very well aware of the adverse side effects. And again, these are not just side effects in that it doesn't look the way you want it to look, or it doesn't feel, or it doesn't validate you, right? We're talking about blockages. It's really hard to estimate accurately the harm that is being done to these children through these experimental procedures that are really tantamount to mutilation. If only Yard and Silveda were still alive to be able to testify about the need to receive detransition care. Again, this isn't even a rant about how people, right, adults, not just everybody, but people meaning adults, shouldn't get transition care. This is really about how children, whether or not you think they should get transition care, they are not receiving the detransition care that they so desperately need. Some people don't even want to detransition, and they're having adverse side effects and consequences from these gender reassignment surgeries. So it's even a non-political person should be able to see what's happening and say, wow, those people really deserve medical attention. But like this woman who doesn't have nipples anymore, and she's barely 20, and she can't find someone to treat her. She can't find an endocrinologist or a gynecologist. Can't make this up. There's no universe where this is ethical care. But if you question it, you get silenced. So we're abandoning detransitioners, and they can't find care. For example, Claire Abernathy, Yarden Silveda, and now let's watch another clip from Claire. Let's see. Oh, my laptop's about to die. Not this.